So this morning, we talked about Kalyana Mitta, which is the Pali word for spiritual friends, and we have KM groups, and we just talk about it generally. So I want to talk this morning about meeting the world with the qualities of Kalyana Mitta. And in the Buddhist teaching, he emphasizes this a lot. There's the story about Ananda, his attendant, saying, "Sir, are Kalyana Mitta part of the spiritual life, spiritual friends?" And the Buddha is said to have replied, "No, they're all of the spiritual life." It's really one of the most profound and practical ways to approach life and relationships through this perspective, from this perspective. And Kalyana Mitta is more than just an ordinary friend. It's not just your buddy. It's a companion on the path. It's someone who guides and supports us, helps us deepen our wisdom, improve our ethical conduct that we talked about on Saturday, and help reduce our suffering. So it really requires someone that's also on the path so that they sort of understand and we understand each other. Because, in this crazy world with all the challenges, uncertainties, and suffering, developing these qualities is really a transformative way, or at least potentially a transformative way of engaging with others and engaging with the world at large, because it not only does it deepen our spiritual growth, but it creates a ripple effect. It creates a ripple effect of compassion, of understanding, and of harmony with others. Now, it doesn't require that everybody in the world also be on this path, but it says how we might want to approach everyone else that we contact in the world. The Buddha emphasized the importance of noble friendships within the Sangha, but also how we interact outside of the Sangha as essential to the path of awakening. And as I said a minute ago, in the Upada Sutta, the Buddha famously told Ananda, noble friendship is not half of the holy life, it is the whole of the holy life. And this really underlies the centrality of KM, the cultivation of the Eightfold Path, and the realization of reduced suffering in our lives. Because a spiritual friend, a Kalyana Mitta, encourages us to cultivate wholesome qualities. It's someone who will point out our unskillful tendencies with compassion, with empathy, not with a judging mind. And who will remind us of the teachings when we sort of get off track a little bit. This person, or we as this person, embody virtues such as generosity, patience, ethical conduct, wisdom, serving both as a mirror and as a guide to others. And the teaching is not merely about seeking such friends, but about cultivating the qualities within ourselves. That's where we start. We talked about that on Saturday with ethics. We start with our own challenges. But by becoming a Kalyana Mitta to others, we embody the Dharma in action. We create a supportive environment. We open ourselves to others to come and share this path with us. And in doing so, we meet the world with greater kindness, with greater wisdom, with greater equanimity. It really is an important way of deepening our practice. And to develop these qualities, we first have to understand the characteristics that define a spiritual friend. The Buddha identified several key attributes in another one of the suttas, the Sigalovada Sutta, which guide us in becoming a source of support and inspiration for others. The first one is generosity. Not only with material possessions, or maybe even less with material possessions, but with our time, with our presence, with our attention, with our knowledge, with our caring and concern. Because in a world, in a culture like ours, which is so dominated by self-interest, practicing that kind of interpersonal generosity really allows us to connect with others in a deeper way, with a spirit of abundance, with a spirit of care. So generosity is one of the key qualities that he identified in this sutta. The second one is virtue, ethical conduct, and that's what we talked about on Saturday. And it's really foundational to being a trustworthy and reliable companion. I mean, we bring our ethics to our relationships. It's just that important. We cannot play fast and loose with our ethics, and have solid, trusting, compassionate relationships. So we adhere to the 5 lay precepts of not killing, not stealing, not engaging in harmful speech, harmful sexual behavior, or using intoxicants to cloud the mind. We live a life of integrity. We create a sense of safety and respect in our relationships with others. The third of these qualities that the Buddha identified is loving kindness. And again, we talk about this. We talk about, radiating unconditional goodwill and kindness toward others. We send that out to the world. And this enables us to meet others, whether they're on our path or not, without judgment, without hostility, fostering an environment of mutual respect and understanding. We try to get past our reactive responses to others and see them more deeply, see their own suffering as perhaps explaining some of their unskillful behavior. The next are patience and forgiveness. Human relationships are fraught with misunderstandings, fraught with miscommunications, fraught with conflict. So by bringing patience, by bringing forgiveness to our relationships, we meet those challenges of misunderstandings and conflicts with equanimity, maintaining harmony even in difficult situations. That is a huge challenge, but very important. The fifth one is wisdom. Wisdom allows us as a spiritual friend to discern what is beneficial to others. It helps us offer guidance that's rooted in the Dharma, rather than being easily swayed by fads, personal biases, societal norms, or whatever. We bring wisdom to our relationships. Sixth is compassion, of course. A noble friend is deeply attuned to the suffering of others. We move out of our own selves and try to discern the suffering of others. And we would then respond with empathy, with understanding, with support, and sometimes simply with just presence, just showing up. We don't even have to do anything. We don't have to fix it. We just have to show up for folks. And as we talk about here often, compassion bridges the gap between ourselves and others, creates that sense of interconnectedness, or rather strengthens it, and that experience of shared humanity. So developing the qualities of a Kalyana Mitta is not an abstract ideal. It's not just another theoretical notion from the Pali Canon. It's a practical path that we can implement daily in our lives. We can set an intention to be a spiritual friend to others on the path, but also anyone else we encounter. It begins with our mindfulness, with the ability to be present and aware of our own thoughts, words, and actions. Because if we're not mindful of that, we're going to get tripped up. We're not going to be able to bring our best qualities to our interactions with others. So that we can respond to others with intention and care, rather than just simply reacting out of habit or emotion, these knee-jerk reactions that always get us into trouble. In our interactions, it's essential that we practice deep listening. Giving our full attention to others without judgment, without interruption, and without trying to fix them. We just bring our attention, our presence. Because the simple act of presence alone can be profoundly healing. It affirms the dignity of the other person. It affirms the worth of the other person. Similarly, speaking with kindness and honesty builds trust, and it nurtures meaningful connections. Now, another way we can do this and cultivate these qualities is through acts of service. Whether it's offering material support to someone in need, sharing our knowledge, simply being available to lend a helping hand, just showing up for other people. Because these actions cultivate generosity. They strengthen the bonds of friendship. But all that said, we have to remember the balance that is necessary in terms of self-care, so that our compassion doesn't lead to burnout. It doesn't lead to resentment. It doesn't lead to feeling like someone's taking advantage of us. We have to have boundaries, clear boundaries. But that's where the balance comes in. And finally, the practice of equanimity is vital to maintaining the stability and clarity needed to be a good spiritual friend, because equanimity allows us to remain steady in the face of praise and blame, success and failure, joy and sorrow, and those other worldly winds that we talked about last month. It helps us offer guidance without attachment to outcomes. It helps us offer love without clinging and without an expectation for how someone should be. So when we cultivate the qualities of Kalyana Mitta, we're not only supporting individuals, we're contributing to a larger well-being in our world, in our immediate environment. And this is so important in a time in which we live marked by division, by conflict, by alienation. I mean, the presence of noble friends, showing up as a noble friend, can really be a beacon of hope in this kind of charged world we live in. By meeting the world with generosity and patience and wisdom, we create space where understanding and compassion can flourish. You know, it challenges this pervasive culture of self-centeredness and competition. Me, 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 me. It reminds us that true happiness arises not from achievement or accumulation of goods, but from connection and service. The best source of happiness, as we know, is in our relationships. It's not in stuff. It's not in achievements. And when we embody these qualities, we model these qualities for others. We create this network of friendships that can be transformative and really offer our lives as service to the people around us. It's really a profound way of meeting the world, not with judging, not with fear, but not with hostility, but with a clear, open heart and a steady mind. In doing this, we fulfill the Buddha's vision of a world that is guided by wisdom and compassion, where suffering is pervasive, where it needs so much attention. And as we strive to be noble friends to others, we find within ourselves a true friend because we awaken our heart, a heart that dwells in peace and joy and boundless love. So it comes back to us as all forms of generosity do. So that is meeting the world as a spiritual friend.